NXT is feeling indie again, and I think that it's a great thing. What's going on, everyone? Chase for AXW here, and this is my opinion piece of the week. I've been watching NXT a lot since WrestleMania, and I just think that it has a totally new vibe shift. A vibe shift that really reminds me of when the Black and Gold brand started. Now, the Black and Gold brand started when it was phasing out of FCW, and I feel like right now NXT is phasing out of its NIL/former college athlete program that it's been running for quite some time. I feel like NXT the last couple years has been trying so hard to be another Raw, and that's something that as a wrestling fan I'm not necessarily interested in. I'm already seeing that on Raw and SmackDown. It seemed like they were putting stories over wrestling, and if it wasn't for the excellent women's division the last couple years, NXT would not have been watchable. The top stars are now all on Raw and SmackDown. As you see, Ethan Page and Ricky Saints have now made their debut. Javon Evans, Obafemi, and Trick Williams debuted earlier this year and are already taking the main roster by storm. So it seemed for a while that NXT was going to be lost. But instead, they changed their model completely. With the addition of Naraku, formerly Evil, of Mason Rook, now you have two legitimate former independent names, two great workers who you can elevate to keep a person like Tony D'Angelo, who hasn't necessarily been the best wrestler, relevant. And honestly, once he phases out, there's a possibility that we get this matchup that you're seeing on the screen for the NXT Championship. And unlike a former 15 or 10-minute match, we might actually get a 30-minute match reminiscent of the times of the Black and Gold era, where it really prioritized wrestling. And now I know every single person who watches my videos must know by now that I'm a big fan of independent wrestling. But I just think that wrestlers understand wrestling. So when you hire wrestlers for your development company that can actually work and already understand wrestling, it's just going to make the product better. They got really lucky with guys that I mentioned who are now on the main roster, that they were able to rely on their charisma and their athleticism during the moments that they didn't necessarily know how to wrestle. But that's not the case for everyone. You look at Birthright, you look at Dark State, you look at Vanity Project. There's so many factions right now in NXT. And as much as I love factions, I think that relying on them for a brand just isn't smart. It's just making so many wrestlers have nameless faces and nameless gimmicks because they're all pretty much the same gimmick. Vanity Project is just a bunch of frat boys. The Birthright are all second-generation stars. And to be honest, I don't even really know what Dark State's gimmick is. Either way, none of them could really elevate to the upper card, so you're pretty much stuck with a mid-card. Now, breaking things down a little bit further, the addition of the new Evolve superstars, including the Vanity Project, who I actually like despite what I formerly said, especially Jackson Drake, I think that he's a phenomenal worker. But bringing in Jackson Drake, Sean Legacy, Kendell Grey, former talents that actually used to compete on the independents, they are extremely talented, and they've already been working the WWE style of matches during their time at Evolve. So they're already developed by this point that they enter the development territory. Now, the women's division is something that might have taken a little bit of a step back, but they did a really smart job of reintroducing Nikita Lyons, who I think can do better this time around. Lola Vice is still holding strong. And now you have Kendell Grey and Lizzy Rain, who have just recently made their debuts, and they're already stars. I mean, Lizzy Rain 3 weeks ago made her debut, and now she's already one of the top names that's most discussed on social media in all of NXT. Granted, she's got a crazy finisher, and she's got a really cool rock star gimmick that seems like it would have succeeded in the 80s, but is somehow working now. But I just think that the future of NXT is a lot brighter than most people understand. And this is all without saying that there's still some great stars still there, like Miles Bourne, Lexis King, Lola Vice, who I mentioned. It seems like Izzy Dame is getting a little bit of a shot up the ranks now. And Tony D'Angelo, who kind of is the last of that old guard from the NIL era. But regardless, I'd say that NXT is in a better position now than it was this time last year, because you knew that a lot of their main stars were going to phase out. And look at Mason Rook, right? Let's just use him as an example. 3 weeks ago, they didn't know if he was a fan or not. People were confused. People in the comment section were saying, "Who's this fat guy?" And then John Cena tweeted about him. And people looked up his tape and saw, oh, this guy's a legit indie worker. He actually is very talented. You saw all these different variations of pile drivers that he was doing. And now, 3 weeks later, he cuts an amazing promo that I thought was awesome, super believable, hits the moonsault on the outside of the ring, and then the whole crowd is cheering for him. And I thought it was great. And then you look at Naraku, who was evil in New Japan. He's a great worker. They did a really smart thing by having him face Lince Dorado in his debut match, and he seems like he's going to make his way up the division quickly. I like the way that Booker T kind of packaged talking about him as, you know, he's just using this as a quick stepping stone to get to the main roster, which I think could be really interesting to put into place. But the problem that they had was they had all these factions, and you can't really elevate one person in a faction very quickly without a long storyline. But now the upper card of NXT is better than it has been in quite some time. And then the women's division right now, you got Izzy Dame moving up. Lola Vice has been holding things down, has been great in AAA. Kalani Jordan's been there for a while, and Kendell Grey is phenomenal. And now with Izzy Dame, I just think also there's a lot of AEW contracts and TNA contracts that are expiring soon. With the working relationship that WWE now has with TNA, it's very possible that they get one of those big names very soon. And I just think that it's very possible that this time next year you have a lot of AEW guys, and NXT is like how it used to be. It's focused on wrestling, basic storylines. I really enjoyed the fact that they kind of had a nice little promo battle between the Vanity Project and Darkseid that was something that I felt you could have seen on old Ring of Honor television, where it was just super simple storytelling. And I think that that's what NXT needs. NXT was its best in its black and gold era, in my opinion, and I think that we might see a new renaissance of that. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video and subscribe for more. We'll see what catches my interest most in the world of wrestling next week. Peace.